What's up, YouTube friends? I'm Brian Hewitt of Hewitt Films. Today I'm talking about the Heidi Allen case and the Gary Thibodeau case. And Matt Mulcahy did a few stories on this just recently. And he talked to District Attorney Oakes, who straight up lied on TV about Richard Thibodeau's van. He said that the van was wiped clean of prints and that there was nothing. It looked like someone took their time to clean the van. Let me show you a picture of this van. Now, does that van look like someone sat there and tried to clean it up? Doesn't look that way to me. But he actually said that there was like no prints of Richard Thibodeau, there was no prints of Gary Thibodeau, there was nothing found in the van, and that was kind of suspicious. Well, Matt Mulcahy took a look into it, and this is what he found. Check out this video. Matt Mulcahy, Channel 3 News. Thank you very much, sir, for bringing the truth to the public.
NBC3 is digging deeper into the Heidi Allen kidnapping case tonight. Good evening, I'm Matt Mulcahy.
And I'm Megan Coleman. All week we've been focusing on the kidnapping conviction of Gary Thibodeau as he gets hospice care at Coxsackie Correctional 24 years after the disappearance of Heidi Allen.
Last night we took a key question to the district attorney. How do you explain the absence of any evidence of Heidi Allen or a struggle inside the van prosecutors maintain was used during the kidnapping? Well, tonight, we're fact-checking the claim made by Gregory Oakes that the van was suspiciously absent of materials. That's not what investigators found in 1994. There was hair, there were fingerprints, but not Heidi Allen's.
The 18-year-old disappeared while working at a convenience store in New Haven in Oswego County. It was Easter Sunday, 1994. The investigation quickly focused on the Thibodeau brothers.
A jury convicted Gary Thibodeau in the kidnapping. He's now in failing health in prison. Prosecutors had no evidence to connect him to the scene of the crime, but the claim was made that Gary must have been in the van helping his brother abduct Heidi Allen. This is the photo of inside Richard Thibodeau's van. Photos taken by the Oswego County Sheriff's Department 6 days after Heidi Allen's kidnapping. Trial testimony shows investigators checked it with ultraviolet light, vacuumed it to capture particles, and dusted it for fingerprints, all with the consent of Richard Thibodeau.
They wanted to take my van that evening. I said, yeah, you can take my van. You can go through it. You can do whatever you want. I said, I haven't got nothing to hide. I didn't do anything anyway.
The van left plenty for investigators to test. The FBI lab report shows they found 5 latent fingerprints, hairs, and fibers in the van. Yet when we talked with the district attorney this week, he gave a much different summary of the evidence in the van.
How come you didn't find anything in Richard Thibodeau's van then?
Well, one of the interesting questions is, when they looked at it, is they talked about the absence of fingerprints and DNA and hair fibers kind of across the board, not just relating to Heidi Allen. If you were to go to my vehicle right now that's used and traveled in, you're probably going to find fingerprints, DNA from other people, hair fibers from my kids. The question is, it would be unusual to find any person's vehicle to find a complete absence of any of those things. So the fact that there was a complete absence indicates to me that somebody was cleaning it and maybe taking special efforts to make sure that those types of things weren't found.
At trial, Oswego investigator Nicholas Kleist testified, saying he found fingerprints and compared them to both Thibodeau's and Heidi Allen. When asked what they revealed, he said they didn't match. There was no identification. FBI Special Agent Christopher Allen also testified as a forensic expert for the Bureau. He testified to the vacuum scrapings from the van containing hairs. He did not find any matching Heidi Allen. Now, the FBI forensic team also was given samples of carpet from the van for their own examination. Trial testimony showed more hair found, some from animals, and the human hairs did not match Heidi Allen.
So what is the district attorney saying about all of this tonight?
Well, I reached out to him a couple of hours ago, and just as our story aired tonight, my phone rang. I have yet to talk to him, but we'll reach out to him again. Now, tonight at 11, our coverage of this case continues. We're talking with a woman who was on the Heidi Allen jury, why she now regrets the verdict reached in the Gary Thibodeau trial. That's tonight at 11. You can watch all these stories from this week and read an in-depth article on our visit to Gary Thibodeau in prison by going to our website, cnycentral.com.
So Matt Mulcahy did reach out to DA Oakes, and Oakes said this.
Well, late tonight, Greg Oakes responded to that story, saying, "It's my understanding that investigators did not find any hairs with full follicles after searching the entire van. Investigators only found 3 latent fingerprints on the window of the side door, but they did not match Heidi, Gary, or Richard. Since Richard owned and operated the van, the absence of his fingerprints seemed abnormal. I should have been more precise when we spoke, he said.
Okay, so there wasn't full follicles found in the van, and the fingerprints on the van were not Gary's, Richard's, or Heidi's. Well, who the hell's prints were they, and why didn't they look into that? These are things that I question about this case. There's a lot of things that I question that, from reading the news, it doesn't make sense. And again, I'm just reading the news. I'm just an observer reading the news, and something's wrong, and I think this guy's in jail and innocent, and I think it's terrible. That's just my opinion. So, and then I find this other clip about District Attorney Oaks. Now, he said in this one clip, he said, I saw a while back and watching the news, he said that if it wasn't Gary Thibodeau who kidnapped Heidi Allen and that other people are responsible, he wants to find them and prosecute them. That's what he said. I remember seeing that clip. I can't find it. I don't remember where I saw it, but I remember seeing it. And I was thinking, wow, this guy's taking it seriously. And that was really cool. And I was like, good, at least somebody's taking it seriously. But then I see this clip, and I'm like, this guy's not taking it seriously at all. And if he is, I mean, if that was my family member, I'd be pissed off. I'd be really pissed off that this guy's just... Let me show you the clip.
I'm going to be very brief today. We've concluded with the examination, the investigation for today. We're going to be back tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. to resume the investigation. Have a good night.
Greg, one question. Hey, Greg, but the disturbance of the cabin, have you determined whether anyone did it?
In the long run, I don't know what's going to happen with this case. My personal thoughts is that Gary Thibodeau's innocent. Again, that's my opinion. As an observer watching the news and reading the articles and reading the new evidence that came in, there's way more evidence on the 3 new suspects than they ever had on Gary to begin with. Way more people testified that these 3 suspects were talking about kidnapping her and killing her, and that they had a motive and it was drug related. Gary didn't have a motive. There was no motive there. So I don't know what the case is, what's going to end up happening in this case, but I hope that somebody still fights for Gary, even if he does pass away.
We begin tonight with an NBC3 exclusive. For the first time in the 23 years since a jury found Gary Thibodeau guilty of kidnapping Heidi Allen, a juror is talking publicly about the verdict. She says tonight she feels the jury reached the wrong verdict. She says Gary Thibodeau is not guilty. 18-year-old Heidi Allen disappeared while working in a convenience store in New Haven, Oswego County. It was Easter Sunday, 1994. The investigation quickly focused on the Thibodeau brothers. A jury convicted Gary Thibodeau in the kidnapping. He's now in failing health in prison. Prosecutors had no evidence to connect him to the scene of the crime, but relied largely on 2 jailhouse informants. For the first time tonight, a juror in the Heidi Allen case is courageously telling her story. Until tonight, she was simply juror number 3. Elizabeth Head had a front row seat. She was juror number 3 for that unforgettable moment during the Gary Thibodeau trial.
How do you find the defendant as to count number 1, kidnapping in first degree?
Guilty.
23 years after the jury shattered Thibodeau's courtroom confidence, Elizabeth Head wants a do-over.
Do you think Gary Thibodeau is guilty?
No, I don't think he is.
She admits to being filled with doubt back then. She kept waiting for the prosecution to present evidence.
What was your impression of evidence that was presented?
I didn't think there was evidence. I'm not what I would think was real evidence. It was all pretty much who, like when we got to the end, it was who did you believe?
She was one of the 12 jurors that questioned whether Thibodeau was involved in Allen's abduction.
The jury came back a couple of times and said there was no evidence against me. Twice.
From prison, Gary Thibodeau recalls the jury seeming to struggle to reach a verdict. Elizabeth Head says they thought Thibodeau was involved in something illegal like drugs, but not necessarily a murder or kidnapping.
All of us felt that same way, that there really wasn't anything to say he is for sure guilty, he is for sure innocent. And twice we came up kind of blank, and they said, well, you really have to come up with an answer and base it on who do you believe.
Just days ago, the district attorney said he has not called for a new trial because he respects the decision made by that jury in June of 1995.
I think it would be awfully arrogant of me to do that. And I say arrogant because 12 jurors considered all the evidence. They also heard Gary Thibodeau testify. They rejected his testimony and that of the other witnesses that he presented.
Head says the new evidence that developed over the last few years reaffirmed her feeling that Thibodeau was not involved in the kidnapping. She'd like to see him get out.
A medical parole or something. Just, I think he's, even if he were guilty, I think he deserves that at this point.
Do you think that he is guilty at this point?
No, at this point I think he's not. I think he's innocent. I think it was a miscarriage of justice.
I don't know. I'm Brian Hewitt of Hewitt Films. If you like this video, leave a like, please subscribe, and more to come. Thank you. Have a good night.